And at this time, I recommend to anyone who wants to be a part of the broadcast to turn on their camera. Please keep yourself muted until it's time to talk. Well, yeah. Otherwise, just stay muted and keep your camera off and enjoy the conversation. All right. Quick comedy relief. Anyone anyone get the joke? He's a parcel tongue. It's Harry Potter. He can speak snake. So he's a natural python. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And then yeah, Ron is standing there in disbelief as always. All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Sacramento Python User Group, aka SacPy. It's October 3rd here. It's October 4th in Auckland. And you know, time is relative, but here we are. First Thursday of every month, or Friday, depending on your time zone. We are getting close to 1,800 Pythonistas on our meetup group and catching up on a number of other social media groups. Shout out to Nilesh for handling administration on the meetup, and to Robert for joining me on the byline for these events. All hail our glorious founder, Josh Miller, who got us started back in February of 2017. He handed things off to Robert and I back in January of 2020. Pandemic pushed us online, and we basically haven't turned back because we get friends beaming in from all over. So, though we have done some in-person meetups, I think the online group is here to stay because, I mean, from a logistics standpoint, I don't think you could get much more efficient. Code of conduct. I typically read this one if the last event went a little sideways. There was a time when we'd have a VIP like Alex in here, and I'd feel the need to, but I think got the community kind of locked up. But just promise to you, Alex, if people need moderation, I will do it with the quickness. So the meeting format is pretty straightforward. Unlike in-person seminars and whatnot, we ask that you do not hold your questions till the end. We like the inline conversation. We like the tangents. We like to know when people need a concept unpacked. And we love hearing from someone who's just chewing on the problem for the first time, as well as someone who, hires for that particular problem and has a very unique way of filtering through and figuring out when someone knows what's up. Use the raise hand mechanic. I'll try to stay on top of that. Use chat for asking questions, or, I don't know, maybe you spend some time on Discord voice chats, jump in and, choose your drop in wisely, but please no sound bombing. You've been warned. Like I said before, I am quick with the band hammer. Chat with us. I'm going to post some links in the chat just so people can click on them in line. I actually got them ready this time. Feeling good about that. Here is the SacTech is the Slack channel that SacPy lives in. SacPy.org is that's just a reference to my company's Discord channel. I'm pretty active in both, and there's a ton of people in both. So definitely check them out, especially in the SacTech. A lot of access to a bunch of Northern California events. Great stuff. We're also on x.com, sac underscore pi. I have no idea who sac, no underscore, no anything pi is, but they're inactive. So, Elon, can we have that one? That'd be great. We're also on Reddit. I do not post the events on Reddit ahead of time. That is a very good way to get Zoom bombed, but I do post the recordings. On LinkedIn, we've got a page and a group. Oh, wait, I have fallen behind on posting links. Okay, here is the x.com. X is a question. That's actually how we connected with Alex. I reached out. I think maybe on one of Mike Driscoll's tweets or something. So it
Correct.
wasn't a totally random inbound, but he was quick on the stick and we like that. Not that that was a requirement or anything, but when it comes to, you know, denizens of the internet, some of us just kind of drop stuff and some of us are at the net playing tennis and volleying the ball back over into the next court. So the page is relatively new. I think we have only 8 subscribers on that at this point, but it does seem that's actually the decent interface for publishing events. So I've been focusing on that. It's been pretty good. Robert, SacPy is starting to get some like traction on search on LinkedIn, so could be good for the future. Facebook, I think we have like 80 some odd people on the page and maybe still single digits on the groups. If anyone's a particularly Facebook oriented person and is looking for a way to contribute to this, that would probably be the best way. So reach out accordingly. We're also on YouTube. This is where I publish all of the good recordings. Sometimes they're bad. Sometimes I forget to hit record, like today's coding quiz. But check us out there. Do I have that one? Okay, I do have that one. More links in the chat for that. And sweet. All right. So we are coming up on the group photo. So I'm going to set up gallery. And can I set it so hide non-video participants? There we go. All right. So everyone who is looking to get in the chat, turn on a fun background, go grab a silly hat. I'm going to grab a silly hat real quick. So you guys get a minute. Oh, and then that's Twinkles on Dr. Taneem Islam's video. That's our official mascot, Twinkles. Twinkles is interstate these days. I'll be right back.
So many happy SAC Pythonistas.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to do a better background. I want to do the new background. All right. Quick. Look intelligent. One, two, three. Oh, Robert's got a good hat. Oh, Ben does too. Very nice. And Alex, that does seem to be Alex's proper, like natural operation mode. All right, we got it all. Good work, candidate four. Way to get in there. All right, so before we get Alex in, I'm going to do a quick update for SEC reasons, and it that you won't have to. It'll be like you don't have to think too hard during that one. I
SEC reasons.
Oh yeah, I Brazen Studios is a Delaware-based C Corp, and it's basically just practice for running quarterlies. So it's also good for investors. We get inbounds for some of the funny things that gets said on these things. Okay. Apparently, I forgot that I have a mouse and I'm using the trackpad like an idiot. All right. Did that work? Oh boy. State management is surprisingly difficult. Okay, let's try this again. Advanced. Sides as a background. Oh, don't do it that way. No, I actually have video on this one, so yeah. Okay, so let me get rid of some of this stuff. Oh,
Did you already take the picture?
I did, yep. Everyone's in. Good job. You can drop your video if you want to just chill back. Thanks for participating. Let me just make sure we got this toolbar out of the way. Hide rulers, that's one. Hide toolbar, there we go. Okay. All right, so everyone sees the 10.03 Firematic update. All right, so three main bullet points is in the last quarter. I've added Python tutoring to the offering. I've been doing a lot of work at a place called Torch Yoga. I had some just ergonomic issues from sitting at a desk too much. And I was also working on, I wanted to get back in the gym. And then I also went to this art festival. Brazen Studios, as many of you may know, is in addition to a consultancy, picking up contracts for all manner of business. It's also an art production company. I put out stuff like this podcast or meetup, as it were, but I also do stuff with recording artists. So if you want to work with me on SuperProf, you'll find me. It's an online tutoring platform, and I'm only offering Python. I'll post a link to the in the chat to that particular one. I don't expect anyone to be in here, but who knows? Maybe something will come off the YouTube publishing. In any case, the link is in the chat. I have a long background of tutoring. I tutored since elementary school. I tutor basically all levels of math. I've taught swim lessons. I have a long like coaching and educational background thanks to my parents. So torch yoga, as I said, I've been doing a lot of torch yoga. I think two or Python groups ago. I was out here. That was the one with James Powell. I was here for 2.5 weeks and I did 22 sessions, which is fairly a lot for yoga, but was an insane amount for this place. They have 100-degree Fahrenheit in the studio with 70% humidity. And then they do what's called power flow vinyasa. The first week, I was losing 10 pounds of water weight per session. I'm now down to like 5 or so. But some of the people that live around here are tremendous athletes and they barely break a sweat. It is amazing. So, Burning Man, I'm going to do a real quick slideshow. I'll try not to linger too long. I went to Burning Man this year. I was having a funky year of bouncing around. Some of you may know I'm a bit of a digital nomad. I've been living out of a system of bags since last July. My mom sold the homestead, the headquarters of Brazen Studios, and so I did what was ultimately the goal and got on the road and started seeing friends and clients and picking up clients and all that. So one of the stops, not for business development, but just sort of a reminder that there are some gritty but creative and welcoming people in the world. I went to Burning Man. This year's theme was Curiouser and Curiouser, which you may recognize from Alice in Wonderland. I believe it was spoken by this guy, the Cheshire Cat. So Burning Man's a giant thing in the desert. It's 2 miles aside on a pentagon is the the outer fence. There's a giant city and a whole bunch of giant art. That's a sort of elemental version of the logo. Two paren facing out and some sort of superscript character. Burning Man's all about gifting. I think the open source community is also about gifting. The general idea of bring something to the table, not in exchange for something or in anticipation of being rewarded, but just generally that, the gift is a good contribution. So I brought rings. I found one of these rings in my dad's collection of things. It was a opener ring. He got real into beer towards the end of his days. And so I brought 50 of those and kind of told that story. And they were all different sizes. So it was kind of a little bit of rigmarole. People got to find the one that fit them best. It was kind of interesting because everyone picked a different finger because it was just, a random thing, but it was a lot of fun. I went by myself this year. So I got a rental car and I threw a beach cruiser on the back and shoved everything in. Along the way there, you see these fantastical vehicles. They're called art cars in the colloquial, but at the event they call them mutant vehicles. And it's a federally sanctioned city, so they have a DMV, but they, scrape the labels. The acronym stands for Department of Mutant Vehicles. So if you look up Burning Man art car, this is one of the first few to show up. It's called the Christina. It's by a group in Tahoe called Tahoe Twisted. And I've camped in their village once. They're a bunch of fun. There's that entrance. That's what the ticket looked like. Very ornate. That's what the vehicle pass looked like. You had to throw that on your car. And here was my solution to surviving desert conditions. It actually worked last year for mud conditions, but it's from a place called Harbor Freight, you can get a portable carport. This one was 10 by 17. I did a portable shed last year, 10 by 10, but this one was nice. It allowed me room to put a tent inside it and then everything else I had at the event. So there was me shortly after setup. I think I finished setting up like 2 a.m. I work till things are done in life in general. I wore gloves so that I did not mess with my hand modeling career. No, mostly I will like cut my fingers a bunch during setup. And this year I had MaxiFlex gloves with lifting gloves over them. So the lifting gloves protected the MaxiFlex gloves, and then the MaxiFlex gloves allowed me to use my phone, like cook, because they use them in food service. And then I do actually like pretty dexterous activities. I could tie my shoes with those. I highly recommend. I might give those out as gifts next year, or at least do a tutorial for anyone who wants to go. Yeah, I covered everything. Looks way different during the daytime. That was like a shot of the initial setup. I did a second setup later, got a little fuzzier. That was the man itself, the titular man that burns, Burning Man. I don't know if he has a name. I think the main thing is the head is always the same, but it's different every year. And at the end, well, they burn it. This is the temple. It's kind of a place of worship. This is a night tableau, so you can see everyone's got their things all lit up, and the moon's in the background too. So walking into the temple, this was one of my main landmarks. This was at the 8 o'clock in the city, so you can see this from anywhere. And people get lost. And, being the Eagle Scout that I am, often I'd point them in sort of the right direction, but this was invariably what I'd point to because everyone saw it. It was in one of these like main thoroughfares. It's like, well, hey, yeah, find the planets in the moon. It's 8 o'clock. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I know where to go from there. This is center camp. Again, a night tableau, so cool lighting. Here's what it looks like during the day. That's the Burning Man or Black Rock Philharmonic was playing some like John Lennon music or something like that. As it turns out, the conductor was my next door neighbor in my camp. Very cool guy by the name of Paul. This is a friend that I ran into. I surprised him at his yoga class. His name's Chad. I've stayed with him a bunch in San Diego. One of these days, I'm actually going to print shirts, and it'll be at the print studio that we set up at his place in San Diego. I met him last year at the Mud Apocalypse. This was the picture that made the news when they were saying calling it a national emergency. They did that actually because that's what you have to do to reroute roads. It really wasn't that crazy. It was a few hundred people got stuck. Most of us just stayed back and wait till it dried out. And that's us meeting. That's someone to remain anonymous in the middle that also was part of our trio. We built a dome on his thing in San Diego. That's where the print shop is. That's what it looks like. Classic San Diego tree scene. That's what it looked like at night. Burning Man, I tend to ride a unicycle, so I joined the unicycle parade. Saw a friend of mine from Minnesota, Jamie Moskren, the current world record holder for the world's tallest unicycle ridden. It was some ungodly height. He did it earlier this year, but he shows up there he's like a busker. He is a professional unicyclist. I ride every once in a while, but he rides like every day. So this guy was just automatic. This is the yoga camp's art car. Here's checking it out from on top of one of the many climbable structures. There were drone shows. It's kind of like an X-Men thing. I thought this one was neat. It was like either like an android or maybe someone using VR playing with the tetrahedron. If you'll notice, the crowd is very colorful. This one was particularly neat for a person from UC San Diego. I think this one looks like the sun god. A lot of people thought of it as a phoenix, but I think that's a nice part about art is it's about how it speaks to you. It's not about what was intended.
Hey,
Uh,
Woody,
yep,
was the first one Daft Punk? That's what it looked like.
it looked very Daft Punky, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a running joke at Burning Man that Daft Punk is going to be playing way out at the border of the event. They don't shy away from things like that. And then I think when Daft Punk, when they dissolved their group, they did a kind of like breaking up video at the Black Rock Desert because they've been there many times. This was all at a camp called Camp Question Mark. This is like a place that had all the big artists. This is one of my favorite scenes is bikes at night. Everyone has their thing lit up so that they can be found and be seen and all that. And you get to a big sound camp or nightclub or something like that, and you just have, an acre of bikes. Looks really cool. A lot of light shows, a lot of flame poofers. So this crowd is particularly lit up because a fireball was going out over the crowd. A lot of really neat art. I like this one. My last name's Hooten, so owls. It's like kind of the family sigil on my dad's side. One cool thing about being at Burning Man is that you get to meet the artist. So this is the artist of that moon shot, which is cool. I think her name is Denise Nicole. She's really sweet. She was bartending and so there's art cars. This would be under the category of sound car, a subset of art car. This group is based out of Tulum, Mexico, and that sound system is in the millions of watts. So when an artist got there and did their thing, it was pretty notable. And, thousands of people would turn out. There's another one. This one's called Zuza. Those eyes were animated, and then I think they had some sort of computer vision solution. That or it was, guided by someone on a tablet, but the eyes would look at people. And it was very unnerving when they looked at people. You could see them reacting. It never actually singled me out, but it was pretty trippy. Anglerfish are very popular out there. The desert is so expansive that they call it the ocean or the playa. So there's anglerfish out there when you get into the deep playa or, in the deep ocean. So I like this one. He's like sizing up the ghost. This group, Kiss, I wanted to give a shout out to because they ran an excellent camp. It's basically kind of like a nightclub with a whole bunch of this art around the walls. So the center of their camp, they had a stage that had performers. This one was an aerials performer. I wish I'd gotten a better shot, but I was just trying to be present and enjoy the performance. It was really amazing. I went there a couple different nights, like Wednesday and Friday. They had awesome artists. Everyone was dressed to the nines. This is inside the DJ booth. If you can see the DJ's not just mixing, but he's also got a guitar on him, and there's a whole array of instruments behind him. He was incredibly talented. I'm not certain what his name was, but he was pretty cool. This is looking down over that club, Camp Kiss. Again, their Instagram is .k.i.s.s. Very symmetric. Burning Man for you. I had a bunch of other places that had fun little parties. This was kind of a dive bar called Camp Threat. I think they're really OG, but they were fun. I love to walk into a place like that and do a little clowning act and then run around cleaning up, and typically they'll serve you the whole night. This is one of the art cars lined up for the burn. I think this group was out of China. They were observing the solar calendar. It's the year of the dragon, year of the wood dragon to be precise, but it was dragon themed. You can't, it goes off the edge, but they were like dragon heads coming off. This one was a really cool one. Tons of dragon themed things this year. I mean, there's tons of dragon themed things every year, but there were a whole bunch of new ones like this one, or at least new to me. This one's called Dusty Rhino. They're based out of San Francisco. They're a lot of fun. They do sunrise sets often. But they do stuff everywhere. There's that dragon one I was telling you about. I don't know what it's called, but it was pretty neat. There's the man jubilating before burning. Big pyrotechnic show that goes along with that one. And eventually he burns. And after they burn, there's embers. And I went out and found the cook crew, joined the staff. And that guy in the pink from a camp named Bubbles and Bass, he was kind of the chef de cuisine. Thanks for letting me get involved. He said, "Hey, if you can get vegetables, you can help." So I did that. So I got to take funny pictures like this sitting in the cook pit. And there's sunrise from Burning Man, pretty cool. Last night I slept in my car because I struck camp before the day I needed to leave because I was on the cleanup crew. And I got pretty dusty, let me tell you. I helped clean up some of the neighborhood camps. This is fun. This is the group from Seattle. This was a total chaotic mess when I got in. Oh, it wasn't that bad, but it was fun helping them get on the road. I also got to, while waiting for my camp to skedaddle, got to see a bunch of the like productions come down, and seeing stuff get built is one thing. You get a whole bunch of green hands on deck emptying out a whole, possibly a system of 18 wheelers and it's chaotic. But when it's coming down, you see it come down exactly in phases. And so this was kind of cool to see it and see a bunch of my favorites in various states of disassemble. Now, this one I didn't actually see, but I could always see it on the horizon. So I was like, yeah, that's good enough of an experience for me. This one was called like the Awake Project. It was a big eyeball. This is that Mexican group, Mayan Warrior, tearing down. Hung out with their group a little bit while they're tearing down, cleaned up some stuff. This is what a car looks like afterward. If you look closely, there's actually a wrap on it, but it's kind of the fun part of Burning Man. There's a lot of details that you can miss if you don't look close. Yeah, there's mine. Threw some stuff on it when I got back. Let me tell you, Hertz was not happy about the dust. And there I am looking crazy. And I put my stencil up. All right, we are approaching 1 hour into this show. So I wanted to pass this off to our man of the hour guest, Alex Clark. He is the creator of Pillow, a fork of the Python image library, and he's going to do a bit of a demo for us today. Once again, thanks for joining us, Alex. Really honored that you could make it. And the floor is yours. So I'm going to pass the share off to you now.
All right, let me hit the share button. That was the most professional introduction I've ever experienced. And thank you. Thanks, folks, for having me. Super tired because I don't typically stay up to sleep. But
Yeah, we really appreciate you because of being past your bedtime. So I know.
it's embarrassing because I'm old, but I'm also going to try to talk quiet because my wife is asleep. But so let's do it. And I love that you mentioned that you're free to jump in along with me at any time.
Oh, to that end, could you zoom in the text size or increase the text size on your terminal?
Yeah, is it too small?
Maybe one more.
Sure.
Like I think it's like Command plus. Could you do quite a bit more? Because it's just sometimes
Sure.
people are on their phones. Maybe two more should do it. There you go. And then I think you might want to resize your window because terminal push. Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. All right. Probably want to see if I can get a shot. Oh, there we go. Okay, so welcome to the Pillow demo. My name is Alex. I live in Bethesda, Maryland, USA, and I created the PIL Fork Pillow in July of 2010. This is mostly about the handbook tutorial, but I also like to throw in some history while I'm at it. So Pillow 1 was released on July 23rd, July 31st, 2010. Python Imaging Library's 10-year anniversary was June 15th, 2005. And Python itself, version 0.9.0, was published to Alt Sources News Group in February 20th of 1991.
So why did you make it?
The I wanted to do a I get to this a few slides in, but I wanted to do a pillow talk for DC Python, and
Oh,
I wanted to learn Pillow because even though I'm the fork author, in 2010 I knew, almost nothing about the Python imaging library, and 14 years later I know just a little bit more. Not
nice.
much more. But so that talk was in April of this year, and the handbook seemed like a great way to, go through everything, as a beginner and learn something as well as, create something that people can refer to. So
I like it. Courageous. Just jumped in.
the
Well, anyway, you said that that's going to show up later in the presentation. So,
Correct. Yeah, I'm looking at the um the bullets here, and like, you know, PIL had stalled in 2010, and so for the first few years we just did packaging updates, and then we started to actually do more stuff. And one of the things I'm interested in as of very recently is that last one, um, supporting high bit depth multi-channel images, for more, to make it pillow available for more than just basic image processing, for use by like geospatial use cases. And um, based on the handbook tutorial, this issue is one where I updated the tutorial to, I did a bunch of image processing, and then we uploaded the images to the tutorial. You'll see this in a minute, which I was very excited about. So I linked to that, the issue and the pull request there. And I also wanted to go through my own timeline as it relates to Pillow, so you can get some sense of, how cool it is to support Pillow, or, Python imaging library in 2024. So I was in school, excuse me, in 1998. I'm Alex. I go by Alex. My name's Jeffrey Alexander. Computer science degree. In 2008, I did the Clone Conference and created PIL 2 years later. And then 9 years later, we got offered funding, which we accepted. And the complete history of the fork is available from this PDF. And I will, excuse me, give you guys the PDF of this talk, or a link to it, after the talk. And so you can read all about the details of, how the fork came about. So funding by TideLift, they refer to open source developers that they are funding as lifters. And so I'm a lifter. And I also do talks like this one to tell people about TideLift and lifting, which makes me a lifter advocate. And TideLift is what I like to call a red hat for everything but the kernel. And there's a open source lawyer at TideLift named Lewis, and he calls it the middle stack. So not the kernel, and not the most well-funded open source projects. They do a survey every year for open source maintainers. They give away t-shirts if you want to do one next year. That's a link to the surveys, and they have a webinar coming up where they're going to talk about the results from this year. And so, okay, so I've done this talk, as I mentioned, like 2 other times, DC Python, and then Austin Python meetup. And so there's the links to the code, the event, and the YouTube for both of them. And so I'm kind of enjoying this talk as a way to like keep doing the same stuff over and over again, and kind of create a history of it.
well, you're always welcome to show up and demo any new things.
And so when I started writing the talk, it was like, okay, there's a gazillion web pages, all over the place about how to use Python imaging library and Pillow. So I also wanted to track a few of my favorites. And so that's what's listed here. And so now we're going to get into the actual talk.
Did you say that there was a link to the presentation, or would we get that at the end? Just so we
Yeah,
can like,
let me take a second to paste some stuff in.
Okay, yeah, because those links, I'm sure people like to explore in concert with listening.
Perhaps while you're doing that, maybe you could just tell us what pillow and pill is.
Pillow is the fork of the Python imaging library, and the Python imaging library is for image manipulation. And it's not part of the Python core, but it's a very popular third-party library um, for image processing. Let me see if I can find the chat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just one more question. I'm sure you'll cover this, but what was your motivation in creating pill?
Pillow was created because I was a Plone CMS consultant at the time, and the
Wait, could you unpack that? That sounds heady. What kind of consultant?
Plone CMS.
Okay, a content management system, so some flavor
Yeah,
of an administrative layer keeping track of the content that goes on some media website, whether it's like a blog or something like that.
correct. It's a Python-based CMS.
But it's called Plo?
Plone, Plone. It's actually named
Oh,
after a band.
okay.
Of
Um,
course it is.
hang on one second. I'm just trying to find the chat link. Oh, here it is. Okay, cool. All right,
So
so
Plone is
that
basically a competitor to Django, right?
it's
Django.
a competitor to Wagtail, I would say, because
Okay.
Wagtail is a CMS built on Plone, or excuse me, Python. So this was the 2000s, and the published version of the Python imaging library on the Python package index um, didn't work with setup tools, which came out around the same time, in the 2000s. And so everybody that was doing Plone CMS was like repackaging the library. And um, one day, like late on a Saturday night, like 2 in the morning, I was just like, I'm gonna take one of these things that that people did and repackaged it and upload it to PyPy, and so that was the fork. I had no ambition or intention that it would eventually be the Python imaging library. And so, like I said, for the first few years, we just did. Why am I back on? Sorry, just did packaging updates, and it when Python 3 came out, and we added support for Python 3. That's when it really took off. Let me post this one in there too. This has the like a link to the slides that has the complete history of the fork. So, okay, so let's get into some actual stuff here. And in the slides, I do the same stuff as I'm doing in the terminal. So I'm just going to run make demo. Oops. I guess I shortened it. Too short for my own good. Okay, so this demo is, you can see it in the GitHub repository that I just pasted in, is a bunch of image manipulation all in a series that we can go through. The only thing that's imported here is this image module for the first, we haven't even really started yet. So opening an image and printing info about the image is the first
Alex, could you show the GitHub link one briefly again?
It's in the chat. It's
Sure, yeah, it's in the
you up.
chat. Size my thing here.
All right, you can carry on, Alex. The link is
So we run the first example, which imports the library, loads this test file, and just prints information about the image. And so you can see I have this image object here. IAmShow loads it in the operating system viewer, which I'm not going to run, but you get Hopper. So then we go to rotating, and I think that I saved a rotating Hopper. Just calling this, I have the image, the IAM variable, which is the open image, and then I call rotate on it. And then I save the rotated images for image. I don't know if you saw it, she's rotated. There she is. Okay, then file type conversions from PPM to JPEG. Okay, and so for the rest of this, I'm going to just stay in the slides because it's easier. But if anybody wants me to pop back over and see anything in the demo, I can do that.
yeah, no
So,
problem. You might as well close the terminal and expand the slides so it fills the
cool.
space a little better.
All right, well then let me just finish the demo. You get the idea.
Yeah.
I think being able to interact was not as useful for the talk as I thought it was going to be, but
No, this is great. You're just tired.
yeah.
It's past your bedtime.
Yes, and thanks folks for bearing with me. And this will be an impressive, number of
Yeah, so what Alex is doing here is a very good example of what they say in my favorite Python 101 book. He's automating the boring stuff. If you were poking around in an image editor and doing that for every single one, that'd be like a minute of activity per image. But instead, you see it going like half a second a pop. So no
and
small
control.
savings.
It
Yeah.
could just be a script that runs and does everything. I mean, again, you can look at the GitHub link and look at demo.py to see what's actually going on there.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to go through what we just saw in the slides and see the results for each, all basic image processing things. Oh, wait, I like that.
The IAM.show that opens it in an external image viewer, right?
Correct. Whatever the viewer is for the operating system for Mac OS to preview. Uh, yeah, so here we call transpose on a variable that has like an integer value, I think. Yeah, so there she is upside down and in the left corner, upper left corner. I think this one is particularly cool. Roll, I wasn't sure about the terminology, but roll means to, as if you're panning the camera. And then this is the function Most of the stuff is in the code one-liners, calling PIL functions, but some examples there's calling other functions that do stuff.
So are there kind of aftermarket libraries that have things like that, like roll and maybe other like utility macros?
There's PIL or excuse me, Pillow is a huge part of like the Python ecosystem, and there's a ton of stuff built on top of it. So yes, and if you go to GitHub, if you go to that organization, Python Pillow, and then you look at Pillow, and then you look at dependencies and things like that, you can see
Like
how
a million projects all depend on
yeah,
it.
how vast the ecosystem is. Kind of mind blowing. Image Kit is one that comes to mind that's built on. I mean, it's just a ton of stuff that's built on top of it. Thought that was supposed to be me and Hopper, but maybe not. Okay. Let's see what we get with this one. Not sure if my images are okay. Now I'm back. This past two, I'm not sure if that was the right image for the example. But anyway, so this is a good one because you can see clearly that we're getting the bands, the band value, the image band, the color band values from split in RGB, and then just switching them and then resaving the image to great effect. And there's a, very basic example of resizing, transposing. Again, that image.transpose is a probably an integer value. Another top to bottom JPEG. And also, I think I went through, there's different ways to do the same thing. So I covered a little bit of that aspect. Also, during pillows, I should mention about halfway through the examples, at some point, the sample image was always not just for Python imaging library Pillow, but for imaging software in general was Lena from a Playboy cover. And at some point, people said we should not have Lena, and what could we use in place of Lena? And so Grace Hopper, computer scientist, I forget who picked it, but so she's now in place of Lena for sample images everywhere.
Great.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And now it's like second. I don't even remember that it was Lena. Okay, so here we import image ops instead of image and do fancier stuff, which looks like we're passing in the open image. We're calling contain, passing in the open image on the left, and then a tuple on the right, and then saving the results. And again, I think this apologies, I think that's the wrong image in the slide. image hops, image ops module. I have to double check. Maybe it is right. Yeah, okay, here it looks like we fitted resize the image. Okay, yeah, so there you can see padding with a called image ops had passed in 3 arguments to the pad function, the third of which is the red, and then saved the result. Okay, changing the file type and converting the image to different formats is very popular. So here's an example of L mode in which you lose, I think, RGB.
So is there some missing coverage in terms of image formats right now? Like the Google's latest highly compressed images, will it work on those?
I mean, WebP.
Yeah,
Actually, I know that there's an HEIF plugin for PIL that I've been using.
Correct. We support, I think we support it natively to dependency.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess plugins can cover the kind of corner cases and image types, huh?
It's like I said, the after 20 years, one interesting thing that came up was that actually the ticket was opened a long time ago by one of our core devs. Maybe we should support multi-band um, images, which would let, we could be used by for more than just basic image processing like GIS and even VFX. Other industries could take advantage of using the library. And I don't know if it's so much the format, like we support TIFF now, but it could also be TIFFs that are, just have more data in them. So we have 2 PRs open for that right now. One is done in C, using the original data model written in C, and the other one is done with Apache Arrow. And so I'm kind of like roughly targeting, and I was targeting now, and it's not done yet. So I was roughly targeting end of year to continue working on that. And I don't know which approach is better at this point, but it's exciting to see the progress.
Yeah, just for like visualization of data.
And actually, you can look that up on in the PIL repository. That's issue number or pull request 1888, I think. All right, so there's another transformation. Interesting lambda. There's some color manipulation there. Again, another not importing image module, but rather another module that's available to do different processing. The animated, the famous animated GIF use case here. This is my cat, may he rest in peace.
Oh,
Yeah.
what was your cat's name?
Um, is we called him Snorkel, but he was named Vlad after Dracula characters. Mina and Vlad, we had two cats.
Oh, he didn't impale something.
All right, so let me postscript. Okay, so one of the last ones I think was postscript, um, which probably in the '90s was a thing, but not so much nowadays. But I wanted to do that example. Um, okay, so now I'm going to just freestyle because the rest of the talk is like I think at this point we've made it mostly through the handbook tutorial, so I'm just going to freestyle here and also cover the release notes because I did want to um the pitch for this talk was that we were going to go over the release notes, and I looked at them before and it was actually pretty cool. So let's do that. Here's the tutorial that we just covered. In the latest, in the Pillow 11 is coming out mid-October, and in that release, we uh, I updated the tutorial to include all the images, which I thought was pretty cool. So now we have Hopper.
Is there a pull request or an enhancement request to auto crop images in Pillow?
I don't know about auto. No, you know why? Because it would require intelligence, which we don't have. We're never going to do any kind of recognition or anything like that. I don't think, because it's out of scope.
Yeah, there are people doing some interesting character recognition stuff. I saw some OCR solutions. I even saw an MNIST solution.
Yeah, there's tickets for it where we say no.
Yeah, that's kind of the nice part about Python libraries for anyone who's more on the 101 level. You get real focus with the thing and you don't get too out of scope, which is to say you don't start integrating features that could be found in other libraries. So in this case, he's sticking two images and people are saying, oh, do this machine learning things like use a machine learning toolkit.
Right, exactly right.
Maybe find a repo that's doing what you're looking for and you can get that done. And then, Alex as a sole repository steward can keep doing his thing with images. I put
So
a link to a Stack Overflow of people discussing how to do handwritten character recognition. That's a MNIST test.
so
Right.
I'm the PS file in in the slide made me think of this, which is that uh PS file was like as of Pillow 11, which is coming out mid-October, is actually removed now, and I'm assuming, or if I recall correctly, it was a Photoshop utility thing that we're just now taking out. So so the interesting stuff about release notes is that they they didn't exist in Pill, and we started them with Pillow 231 in 2014, and so we add them every release. 11 has we have a template for this, and so um, most notably we're supporting 3.13 with the gill removal uh, feature. So it is kind of a cool time to like stuff is just like changing. Um, I think it's going to be crazy to see, a gill-less C Python and how that does over the next few years. Um, skip to the end. All right, guys, so that was like a half hour and want to jump to
Dude, that's a good logo.
yeah, wasn't that cool?
So one other thing
Yeah,
I
and
think,
go ahead.
Philip, is um, how do you use Pillow with NumPy, right? So for the things that aren't built into it, you can take your Pillow image and you can convert it into a NumPy tensor, and
People, yes, people, that is a use case and people do it all the time. And we occasionally run into times where unexpected things happen between Pillow and NumPy. And I think that
yeah,
we support that interaction pretty well. There's probably a bunch of, issues in the repository related to interoperability. Probably particularly with, NumPy is certainly going to do, um, is certainly going to do better at scale with the data in the images that the Pillow is processing.
So we have some questions in the chat. Evan had two. Let's see. His first one is there any interest in PIL.image grab performance or smoother operation? I understand it might be heavy, but any tips you've seen or clever solutions to improve it? Why is it such a heavy operation? You might have to scroll up a little bit in chat.
I
And
see, yeah.
Evan, if I misspoke, please feel free to chime in.
No, you covered it. So, I mean, I can offer more.
Yeah, sure. So is any of that you grokking that one, Alex?
Yes, are one and two are the same or different? Still
They're
images and
different.
image.
They're different questions.
Let's do the middle one, which is that no video frame support. Um, just images. I think that if you wanted to work with video frames, you would convert them to images.
Yeah, with like FFmpeg or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that was Deanne's question. So the PIL.image grab, that's PIL. So how did
It's the same thing. The pill image module is in Pillow. So from pill import, pip install Pillow, from pill import image. And I'm not familiar with image grab. What does that do?
I've used Pill Image Grab quite a bit. It's actually what introduced me to the Pill module was to look at my screen, and
Oh,
in
right. Okay,
in some
okay.
cases it was just mirroring the screen. What I did, because it's incredibly, I use the term heavy in the question, but it's just slow. And so I guess I was kind of curious if there was like a desire to improve that. Could it be improved even? That
I,
sort of thing, because the only solution I really found to work with it was to try and slice up my screen into really small, like if I have something that's in like a known location,
I think
then I would, yeah.
no, because it's not a common use case. It's just one of those things that's been there since, the mid 90s. And we could also go look at what kind of it's not nothing. There are some people doing it, and just at a glance, it doesn't look like anything anyone is talking about. Oh, there you go. Performance, but and then generally like the performance is decent because of C. So, the stuff that is requires the library to perform well is written in C so that it does perform well. And I'd have to look to see whether image grab was one of those things. I think most modules are. But that would be one way to improve performance.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seems from looking at your issues, I never stopped to look at that to see if it was like a common complaint.
But it definitely strikes me as one of those things that, is there. Okay, now you get into test.
And so that was, I mean, that was my project in my intro to PIL was to read my screen and be able to translate things. For
What
example,
does the Tesseract library do?
PyTesseract is OCR. And
Yeah, so again, out of scope for us, I guess.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm just explaining my use case was to grab frames from my screen.
Yeah, I love that
and
use case actually.
and translate things into like basically an overlay. And that was my intent, and it worked fairly decently, I guess, for frankly a novice. It was just a couple of years ago that I tried this, and it worked well, ish. But like I said, maybe 60-70% accuracy, and I must have spent weeks getting it to that to that level of accuracy. They probably started off in the like 15-20%. And PIL helped a lot in regards to that, but I mean, the accuracy ultimately is due to Tesseract and not PIL. But PIL, on a 4K resolution, it was fairly painful. 2 second screen freezes, that sort of thing as you're pulling the image. So
It's like, Woody said, it's cool to see all, the stuff that's built on top. Just curious.
Yeah, I'll share some links. Taneem's done some really cool presentations on things he did with similar image libraries.
So relative to pillows, these are download statistics. So you have half a billion over 6 months or so, and then people doing Tesseract. What is that? 13 million. So, definitely not nothing. It is a use case of interest. Yeah, okay.
So, Alex, what do you think about scikit image? Have you worked with that at all?
I believe no, and I think that's a slightly higher level. And I just met someone recently who has a lot of experience with that. My guess is that it is more than
Actually, my impression is that it actually does less than Pillow because it just does the reading and writing of the image formats, from what I can tell.
let's see what it does.
Well,
And
actually, I use it too. One of the nice features is image feature identification, like edges or contours. I use it for that reason. And
okay, so that's actually built into scikit image. You don't have to roll your own logic to do that.
exactly. So it's good in the work I do. For instance, identifying shocks in some sort of simulated model of an experiment. I do a lot of scikit image on the
Right.
simulation output. It's
Yeah.
a real lifesaver there.
From my understanding, it was refactored out of scikit-learn. Originally, it was part of scikit-learn, and they broke it out into a separate library.
Oh, okay.
That could be, yeah.
Was the imaging you're doing, Taneem, was that
It uses actually PIL to do load the image, find out the argmin and argmax of the width and the height to do the auto crop. So, identifying a new bounding box, and then does an image.save on that cropped, basically a cropping to that bounding box.
Right.
So
And then
I
you're
use that all the time to, for
for emailing.
anything that's generated, for any sort of presentation.
And then that was in the IV Tanim repo.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
put it.
I posted a link to the SacPy presentation where Dr. Islam presented on that.
It's an executable auto crop image, which I use all the time. I mean, it's probably the Python executable I use at least 15 times a day.
Very cool. All right. Well, any other questions for Alex, or are we ready to let him get to sleep?
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you letting me whisper my way through those examples. And I think that, one takeaway is you can see how much there is to this. You could spend when you're awake, you could spend like the ecosystem just fascinates me just looking at that scikit image and the dependencies. And I think ImageKit, both our scikit image had in its dependencies, both Pillow and ImageKit, and I think ImageKit itself depends on Pillow. So there's a, there's a crazy dependency trees in open source. So yeah, keep an eye on. I'm gonna paste one more thing before I go.
Sure. Do you need the share back?
No, I'm just gonna go grab the.
Oh, just put it in the chat.
Yeah, in issues, if you go to the Pillow issues repository, there's this thing. Thank you. I got into the VFX community, and they have these. It's a Linux Foundation open source project called Academy Software Foundation, and they have all these C++ libraries. And I got this was about a year ago. I got fascinated by this whole community, and so I went back to the Pillow repository, and I'm searching on VFX, and this issue came up. So ever since then, I've kind of latched on to this support for high bit depth multi-channel images. And so I kind of advocated that we should pick this up and work on it. So it's a really interesting topic, and you can see more about what I was talking about earlier with the two approaches to try to support this use case. And let's say hopefully we make progress. I'd like to do something meaningful by the end of the year, and then sometime in 2025 I'll come back and report on it.
Sweet. I'll rally the banners, see what we can do.
Hey, Alex, I was just curious if you could share a few interesting use cases that you've seen.
Yeah, it's I get that question a lot, and I think there are a ton of them, and I want to start tracking them. The number one most interesting use case is the Mars rover that I have a GitHub badge that says that this Pillow was used on the mission to Mars rover. So that's got to be up there.
That's cool. Will you link that? We here
Sure.
at Reason Studios love Mars.
Was it actually embedded on the rover itself, or was it post-processing?
Well, the weird thing is, if you look at all the libraries that were Let me find my badge. On Mars 2020 contributor. Okay, so I have this badge that, and there was news around at the time that, you know, a bunch of software on GitHub was on the rover. I went looking for Pillow in someone's setup high somewhere, and I never found it. So, you know, hopefully somebody will watch this video and actually provide details on where it was actually used. I have no reason to doubt that it was actually, you know, that it was used and that it's on Mars right now, but I couldn't find like, you know, actual, like I couldn't find libraries that depended on it. So I would love to hear.
Yeah. I just think that
Like F
Python
prime,
kind
for
of
example.
kind of an expensive stack for limited memory. But maybe not.
Let's see. There's definitely other interesting use cases. I can't I'm blanking on what they are, and I'm trying to think of where, if anywhere, if I've
How about personal use cases?
the
I
stuff.
have one.
Yeah, go ahead. The stuff I've done is boring, like logos and stuff. I don't know. I've done the most interesting ones I've heard are from other people. Go ahead.
So I did an OCR, optical character recognition task. I do it for my taxes. So I load up credit card statements and then it pulls all the relevant values and tabulates them in a Google spreadsheet, which I then pass off to my CPA.
So cool.
Automate the boring stuff. I'm trying to formalize that into a bot because we have this one mission statement, one company per person, and I cannot recommend it at this point because some of the boring stuff requires a broken mind like mine. Let's see, what else did we do? Well, Denise
And
was doing some cool stuff. I posted a link to the presentation. It's also on the Brazen Studios channel.
and do you guys have a like a roadmap for the future? Is there anything exciting coming up maybe?
Mostly it's like tracking the Python releases. So it's not 1888, you know, the support for high bit depth multi-channel images is one that I find personally interesting that may or may not happen, but I think the most exciting thing is that it just continues to be supported, you know. Um, it's an old library. We had to deal with XZ, you know, so the security aspect of it is very interesting. So the fact that it just continues to happen and track Python and be in use and supported is to me the most interesting thing.
Okay, one more question. Sorry. What what was your experience with Tide Lift? I mean, how'd that work out? And I've certainly heard of it. Maybe you could just briefly tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's great. And you know, their mission really spoke to me, which was that, you know, I could do this full time, and the amount of funding that is split between four of us is not a living wage, but there's a possibility that in my lifetime it could be, or that you know, that business model uh, could find its way to more open source developers, companies like TideLift. I think that another way that is popular that people that open source developers are making money with that is not attainable for most open source developers is when a company is formed and then they have like the business license where it's the source is available, but you also have to pay. I think the world is kind of moving towards uh, something like that. But TideLift's goal is for all these open source critical, widely used, not the kernel and not super big, for these developers to have income. And so I really appreciated that mission. And so I've just hung in there. It's been like rock solid. Like they came out of nowhere, gave us funding, and every month we get money to keep doing this project. So I think it's a really interesting company to watch. And they have VC money. A lot of the people that work there are uh, from Red Hat, and so
And like, do they tie your project to the funding? Or I mean, where do they get the money to give to you?
it's exactly like Red Hat, where they're selling services on top of the software, and the services are that you can rely on the software that they are supporting. So in other words, let's say giant companies like Atlassian or something like that, um, Pillow is like an integral part of their, you know, operations, right? And so they approach TideLift and say, um, can you help us with security, or, some use case where TideLift is helping to manage some aspect of the software development that otherwise wouldn't happen, and it's valuable to a big company. So the clients of TideLift who are receiving services are, through TideLift paying the developers. So it's very much like Red Hat and the kernel, and services on top of the operating system. It's that model, but for libraries that would otherwise not have that funding. Hopefully that
Okay.
answers the
Yeah.
question.
Thanks a lot.
All right, folks. Thank you again. I'm going to go
Awesome. Well, thanks
tuck
again,
in.
Alex. And thanks for everyone for showing up. We'll be back again in a month. Ta-ta for now.
Night.
All right. Let's end this thing.